Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than our normal videos as we put away the idiot counter and dive into the minds of flat earthers to see what makes them tick, or not tick. So today's video comes from the YouTube channel Jubilee and is titled Flat Earthers vs. Scientists, and is basically a conversation between three flat earthers and three scientists where they're asked a question, given a chance to answer, and then they debate the questions. So I'll mostly be covering only the flat earthers questions and answers and a few key points from the non-flat earthers, but if you'd like to watch the entire video, there will be a link in the description. So let's begin.
I'm a Chief Learning Officer for a young startup.
I'm Shelley Lewis. I'm a graduate of West Point, critical thinker, and jumped out of airplanes.
Our first two flat earthers, Wendell and Shelley, are both business associates of someone that we all know all too well, J.M. Truth. Wendell is a Chief Learning Officer, which, like J.M. Truth, just means that he has some kind of education in instructional design. And Shelley is a critical thinker, and she's jumped out of airplanes, which I guess in some fucked up fantasy world makes her qualified to debate scientific topics.
Only step forward if this is true for you. I believe the earth was created by a higher power.
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years, so the Bible is a flat earth book. You have to take it literally.
As an ex-Christian who has read much of the Bible, I can tell you from personal experience that the Bible is not a flat earth book, especially when read literally. And Wendell, if you believe that the Bible should be taken literally, then why the hell is Shelley even allowed to talk when 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 12 clearly states, "I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent."
Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges, that's just not some fancy story. That's a simile. It is like.
Right? Absolutely.
Exactly, Wendell. It's a simile, a phrase or figure of speech that compares two unlike things. It's a comparison, and given the scientific knowledge and tools of the time, it was a fairly accurate comparison.
And in Isaiah it talks about too, and I'm a Christian, he who sits upon the circle of the earth. There's a difference between a circle and a ball.
Just another example of poorly educated people drawing incorrect conclusions from the Bible. No matter where you're located relative to a sphere, when you look at that sphere, it appears to be a circle. But this is because a sphere is literally a three-dimensional circle. I picked a really bad day to put the idiot counter away.
The internet has played an important role in confirming my view of this topic.
That's the problem.
I 100% agree, Ali. The internet can be both a good and bad place to get your information. For example, there's a lot of flat earthers out there who put out videos with really bad science in it. And if you don't know the science, you may fall victim to thinking that the flat earthers know what they're talking about. That's why debunkers like me are absolutely necessary. It's not for those of you out there who understand the science. You guys are just here for the laughs. It's for those of you who don't understand the science, but don't want to be wrong either.
It's pretty easy to say YouTube isn't research. But when you spend enough time, you're picking up quite a bit. And with the discussion groups, panels, we've gone against opposition. We've opposed ourselves. Surprisingly enough, flat Earth is its own worst enemy.
This is very true, and for a very specific reason. The flat Earth community suffers from the same type of problems as the SJW community suffer from: intersectionality. Remember earlier when they were asked whether they believed in a creator or not? Well, while Wendell and Dan may both agree that the Earth is not a globe and that it's flat, they do not agree that a creator had anything to do with it. See, that's the problem with flat Earth. There's so many flat earthers out there. There's religious flat earthers and non-religious flat earthers. There's dome earthers and infinite plane earthers. There's electric gravity earthers and gravity is density earthers. But there is no consensus among the flat earth community. Therefore, flat earthers are their own worst enemy.
You know, my grandfather used to tell me growing up, never believe anything you read in the newspaper, right? He told that to me. Now, with the age of the internet, it's like, you know, how much of this misinformation are you getting there?
Oh, the irony, Wendell. Here you are admitting that most of the information that you get on the internet has a high probability of being misinformation, when just a few moments ago, you said that the internet played a role in you becoming a flat earther. In other words, there's a high probability that the misinformation that you got off of the internet is what has led you to believe that the earth is flat.
NASA is not proving that the Earth is flat.
Well, they say it in 14 of the
you
documents.
should read what NASA says, and you should listen to what
I
NASA
would
says.
love to see your NASA evidence that the Earth is
it's
flat.
only their contradictory issues
Okay,
that
let's
bring
see.
us here.
I think by now, everyone is well aware of the NASA documents that mention a flat and non-rotating Earth. These documents have become commandments 11 through 20 for all flat earthers. The only problem is, flat earthers tend to leave out one very important word: assumed. The Earth can be assumed to be flat and non-rotating, which is completely different than saying that the Earth is flat and non-rotating. So NASA documents don't prove that the Earth is flat. They just prove that frames of reference are a thing.
We're all familiar with the Earthrise photo, right? The Earth is rising over the moon. We're all familiar with it. That's NASA. You can go out to NASA's site. You can download the original, right?
I already know what you're going to ask.
So you bring up the luminance on it, and you can see where it's cut out and pasted there.
This claim has not only been debunked, but has also been replicated by a good friend of mine, Greater Sapien. What appears to the ignorant flat earthers as artificial artifacts are nothing more than JPEG compression. And when you take the original high-quality photos, those artificial artifacts seem to magically disappear.
I'm what you call a globe denier. You could even get me into a virtual construct if I can't find the borders myself.
This response is typical of flat earthers and most truthers in general, because it's never about finding out any actual truth, because it's all about proving that their position is the correct one. As Dan said, if he went out and couldn't find the edges of the Earth himself, and all he was left with was a globe Earth, he would just become a virtual Earther. Because Dan is not a flat Earther. He's an anti-globe Earther, with an endless number of possibilities that the Earth could be before just accepting the fact that it's a globe.
I view the other side as uneducated.
I'm running.
They think you're
I'm
uneducated.
running for this.
Yeah, I find it funny too, Ali. Flat Earthers always seem to think that we are the uneducated ones. I mean, look, all three Flat Earthers are in consensus that the scientists are the uneducated ones. Apparently, Flat Earthers don't understand the difference between being uneducated and just not believing bullshit.
Where we tend to be exploring in the field with physical properties, not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it.
Exactly, but that's only because Flat Earthers don't understand science. Which brings us to our next question. If Flat Earth dipshits don't understand science, then how can they be so sure that science is wrong?
I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that it was on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous.
And how do you know that, Wendell? How do you know that the government is disingenuous on a large scale? Sure, they probably do keep several secrets from the general population, but that doesn't mean that the sole purpose of the government is to hide the truth. The purpose of the government is to support its country's population, but just because it doesn't give a damn about your dumbass beliefs doesn't make the government disingenuous.
And they're pushing a narrative, right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet? Or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation campaign?
This too is typical in the Flat Earth community. The If you're not with us, then you're against us mentality. So let's take a deeper look at this faulty and very cultish logic. Let's say Wendell approaches you on the street and asks you if you're a flat earther, and you say no. Well, according to Wendell's logic, you've either not researched it enough, or you're just a paid shill. So you agree with Wendell that you'll spend the next year researching flat earth with an honest and open mind. 1 year later, Wendell asks you, "Are you a flat earther yet?" Unconvinced by your own research, you reply, "No, I'm not." Well, according to Wendell's logic, you must be a paid shill, because there is no room for someone who is educated on the topic and still disagrees with the topic without being accused of being paid to push disinformation.
So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth wherever that may lead you, then people end up becoming flat earthers.
Yeah, well, that's just because flat earthers are uneducated and gullible people who are just looking for their corner of the social spectrum to fit into. Because if you take an honest and educated approach to the flat earth, then there's no possible way you will ever become a flat earther.
I have changed my mind at some point about this topic.
And being ridiculed for being inquisitive is pretty tough on us.
The only problem with that statement, Dan, is that flat earthers are not being inquisitive, and they are not looking for the truth. Flat earthers start with a conclusion, and then every piece of evidence they get, they twist it so that it supports their pre-drawn conclusion. Take, for example, the equation 1 plus 2 times 3 equals 7. We know this is true because multiplication comes before addition. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. A flat earther will tell you they want to learn math to prove math is right, and then insist on doing addition before multiplication and bitching saying math is wrong because it doesn't come to a proper conclusion.
Say that I've changed my mind because my mind isn't set. NASA is solely designed to change my mind.
No, NASA's sole purpose is not to change your mind. NASA is designed to help humanity as a whole advance in technology. And why would NASA even want to change your mind? Didn't you say earlier in the video that if you couldn't find the edges of the earth yourself, you would just become a virtual earther instead of accepting the true nature of our reality?
It is, from its inception, from its discovery, has been a television program. It's been a space program to sell us on something that they've yet to actually show us. Show me a globe spinning with clouds and a moon. Show me home. And I think I could shut up easily. I think I could shut up.
No, you wouldn't shut up, because everything you're asking for has already been provided. Take, for instance, Himawari 8 puts out a full globe Earth picture every 10 minutes, and if you look from one picture to the next, you'll see the clouds moving. And let's not forget EchoStar 11, which provided a 24/7 live feed of Earth from space for several years. So the evidence that the flat earthers say they're looking for is out there. The hard part is getting them to accept it.
This is true that the evidence as you looked were not robust evidence. And the sources you used, they were not reliable sources again. But my problem is that, and I like you guys that you are very skeptical, but at the same time, you are not skeptical about your belief system.
Exactly, Ali. Flat earthers are quick to dismiss evidence based on some of the dumbest reasons. Like when they say they can't accept evidence from a source like NASA, so then you provide evidence from a non-NASA source and they won't accept that evidence because they weren't there to do the experiment themselves. But when you ask them to support or defend the flat earth position, it almost always involves a YouTube video posted by some non-scientific, nonsensical jackass with a camera phone and an internet connection. There simply is no consistency when it comes to the skepticism in the flat earth community, primarily because their level of scrutiny is completely biased towards their worldview.
You
That
keep
should have
going
come
back.
first.
You think that that's my foundation for why I believe the earth is flat, and I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Okay.
I have evidence that proves it's flat.
What
or
type of
proves
evidence,
it's not
yeah?
a ball.
What type of
Curvature, I
evidence?
We're
just-
being misled. We're being deliberately misled by mainstream
Now,
media.
what's your evidence you're
We see
thinking?
too far. We see too far. We should not be able to see. I live in Dana Point.
Okay.
I can see San Clemente Island, which is 60 miles away.
So what?
I really like Ali. He has that same so fucking what attitude that I have with these fucking morons. And he's completely justified in having that position. Shelley, so fucking what? If we plug in the numbers into Google Earth, we see that San Clemente Island is almost 60 miles away from Dana Point. Shelley looks a bit stubby, so we'll put her height at about 60 inches tall. Plugging these numbers into Metabunk's curve calculator, we get that the hidden amount turns out to be about 1,860 feet. Now, if only there was some way to find out what the tallest point on San Clemente Island is. Well, with a well-placed Google search, we can. And the tallest point on San Clemente Island is Mount Thirst, at 1,965 feet in elevation. That's about 100 feet that is not hidden, and that's under a normal refractive index, which, as stated in the Metabunk site, is not typical when viewing close to the water or over large bodies of water, where the refractive index is significantly higher, resulting in even less of the island hidden. So while Shelley's over there screaming bloody murder with her evidence, what she doesn't fucking realize is that it actually supports a globe Earth.
What do you mean, so what?
No, I'm on the beach.
1,100
I'm
feet
on the
tall.
beach.
It is
What do you mean by so what?
I'm on the beach. So science has said that when I see a ship go out of my field of view, it's going over the curvature of the Earth, correct?
Yes.
But then I bring my P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in.
I love the expression on her face. It's like, look, Shelley the monkey just learned how to tell everyone in sign language that she just ate a pile of her own shit. Sure, the P900 has a better angular resolution than the human eye, but there are other cameras out there that have better resolutions than the P900. So when you're watching a ship go over the horizon with your P900 and you can no longer see it, why don't you just pull out a stronger camera and bring it back into view? Because you can't. Because the ship has gone over the horizon, and nobody, no matter how strong their camera is, no matter how fine the resolution is, will be able to bring that camera back into view. Keep in mind, this statement is very falsifiable. All a flat earther has to do is go out to the beach and film a ship that's 200 miles away. At that point, there is no discussion about what the shape of the planet is.
If the Earth were truly flat, there would be really hardly any limit. You'd be able to stand at the top of the Empire State Building and look towards Chicago, a mere 1,000 miles away, and see the lights of Chicago at night.
No,
Why wouldn't
because you have an atmospheric disturbance.
Again, this is a provable and falsifiable premise, because if the Earth is flat, then there is no such thing as a horizon, and all a flat earther would have to do is take a balloon up to about 100,000 feet in Miami, while another flat earther takes a balloon up to about 100,000 feet in Seattle at the same time, and they attempt to do direct line-of-sight communications. At that height, there isn't a significant amount of atmosphere, so there should be nothing impeding the signal from getting from one person to the other. However, if the Earth is a globe, then even that elevation wouldn't be high enough to see over the horizon for direct line-of-sight communication. And what do you think we experience in reality? Exactly. We have a radar horizon, which means the Earth is not flat.
Scientific consensus is possible.
Scientific consensus is possible.
What is the question?
I don't understand the question.
Scientific consensus is possible.
Do you really wonder why we keep saying that flat earthers are dumb as fuck? They say they can destroy the scientific consensus about anything and everything, but get completely confused when asked, is a scientific consensus possible?
I used to believe that science was after the truth, right? We all just want to know what the truth is.
Then why do you and every other flat earther out there fight the scientific consensus so hard? Science is the study of the universe and how it operates. And the universe operates in only one way. So the goal of science is to figure out what that one way is. So if you define truth by the way the universe operates, then yes, science is after the truth and flat earthers are in the way. Okay, so I think this is going to be where we end the video today. It's quite obvious that these three flat earthers are nothing more than generic clones of every other flat earther out there, and they offer nothing of value to any conversation with anyone except for maybe their psychotherapist. Now, I'd like to take the time out to thank Jubilee for interviewing 3 of the dumbest flat earth idiots for everyone else's entertainment, and I highly recommend you check out the original. A link will be in the description below. And finally, a massive shout out to all of my channel members and channel patrons whose support helps me keep doing what I love to do. I truly appreciate you guys. I'm Father Skeptic, and I'm out.